About 6 years ago, my daughter and her friend were driving home after a meal out. It wasn't especially late, around 10 p.m., but in September in the UK, it was already dark. They were listening to music, chatting away, and generally enjoying a relaxed evening. No alcohol was involved. I really want to make that clear. They were traveling along a long rural road in Cambridgeshire with no houses for miles. My daughter was calm and cheerful until something caught her eye. Out of nowhere, she saw a little girl standing on the side of the road, arm raised in the air. She looked about 6 years old. Shocked, my daughter told her friend, almost hysterically, to stop the car so they could check on the child. Obviously, a child that young, alone in such an isolated place at night, was cause for concern. But when they stopped and looked, there was no one there. My daughter apologized for making a fuss, but her friend was in tears. She admitted she'd been planning to stop anyway, because she had seen the little girl too. They were deeply shaken. These are level-headed young women, not the sort to imagine things. They both described the same details: a dark-haired girl in a light-colored dress, completely unsuitable for a chilly September night, and standing with her hand raised, just like a child in primary school answering a question. They also both felt there was something old-fashioned about her, as if she wasn't dressed like a modern child. No one has ever believed them, apart from me and my daughter's friend's partner. Their story hasn't changed in all these years, even when they've been teased about it. I believe my daughter completely. She was in an unshakably strange mood for days afterward, and she's a down-to-earth, honest young woman. Many years ago, my friend Alex was driving Brenda and me home. It was around 2 a.m., and the expressway was almost completely empty, just us and the occasional distant vehicle. Out of nowhere, Alex remarked, "Wow, the light inside that car is so bright. How can the driver see the road with it lit up like that?" I glanced around, but saw no car anywhere near us. I figured I must have been too tired and missed it, so I let it go. We made it home safely that night, without further incident. A couple of days later, during a conversation, Alex brought it up again. He asked if either of us had noticed the car with the unusually bright interior lights, when Brenda, who'd been sitting in the front passenger seat, said no. A chill ran down my spine. Alex went on to describe what he saw. A car lit almost unnaturally bright on the inside, yet the only figure visible was a dark shadow sitting in the driver's seat. He couldn't make out any features. Stranger still, the car appeared to be moving in slow motion, gliding right alongside us, but keeping pace effortlessly. I didn't push the idea of it being anything supernatural, though my mind was already going there. Later that day, when Alex gave us another lift, I noticed something missing. His religious pendant, which usually hung from the rearview mirror. When I asked about it, he said it had been cracked that morning. He even laughed and asked if one of us had broken it. To this day, I still believe that pendant might have protected us from whatever that ghost car was that Alex saw that night. I, 24F, passed by the same stretch of road almost every night. For about 5 years, off and on, I kept feeling like someone was in the back seat of my car as I drove at night, always between 9 p.m. and 12 a.m. Without me knowing, my mother was also experiencing this, as well as my best friend. Only recently did we figure this out, and my mother and I started talking about this only to find out that we often have the same image in our mind of what this woman looks like. Late 1800s to early 1900s clothing. She's got a high collar button-up shirt, long plaid skirt. Her face is pointy, sunken eyes, aged features but not older than 70. A few months ago, I was driving home from my friend's house and got the feeling that she was in my car. It was extra heavy, like she was inches from my face, and when I passed by a house that had an outside light on, I could see the outline of someone sitting in my passenger seat. It was like a gray fog or mist, and then an almost clear face, and she looked exactly like how my mother and I described her. Now, because I do believe in ghosts, but I also believe in seeing faces and things that might not be faces, I made sure every night that I felt her I'd look and see if it had just been the light from the house, but there was nothing ever there. I haven't felt her in a while, and I can't find anything about a death or records that are available from that time period to see if I'm actually seeing someone that once lived in the AR. So right now it's just me driving by and hoping she doesn't scare me again. I consider myself agnostic when it comes to anything supernatural, ghosts, religion, etc. I don't believe in it, but I also realize there's a big universe out there, and I don't know or understand everything. I'm open to being proven wrong. All that said, I have one instance in my life that I cannot completely explain away. When I was in my 20s, my ex-wife and I lived in a side-by-side duplex owned by her brother. Her brother had a roommate he'd met through me, a lifelong friend of mine. Naturally, all four of us spent a lot of time together. One of the brother's favorite activities was to go out driving, listening to music, and chatting. We lived in a safe area in small-town Wisconsin, so we often drove to places we weren't very familiar with to see what we could find. One spring evening, just before dusk, we decided to go for a drive. Because I'm quite tall and have a bad leg, I would always ride shotgun. My friend and my ex-wife sat in the back seat. We headed into a rural area not far from town. The area was hilly, heavily forested, and seemed like it would be nice to see as the sun went down. Throughout the drive we chatted, mostly about nerd stuff since we're all gamers. I would look in the rearview mirror rather than crane my neck around whenever I wanted to say something to the back seat. Around the time the sun had nearly set, I glanced into the mirror again. Between my ex-wife and my friend, I saw a shadow shaped like a thin, feminine figure with long hair falling over its shoulders. I jumped, turned to look into the back seat, and the shadow was gone. One of them, I can't remember which, asked me what was wrong. I just said, nothing. I thought I saw something behind us. After we got home, the night proceeded as normal. Eventually, we went to bed. Around 3 a.m, I began to stir, hearing a distant sound. I opened my eyes and saw the same shadowy figure several feet above the bed. This time the long hair was even more distinct, seeming to float around the head as though blown by the wind. I quickly sat up and looked again, but just like before, it was gone. The sound, however, remained. It took me a moment to recognize it. Running water. I looked over, and my ex-wife was asleep. She'd fallen asleep before I had, and when I went to bed, there had been no running water. I got up, walked through the house, and found that all of the faucets, both upstairs and downstairs, had been turned on. At that point, I rationalized everything. The thing over the bed was just me seeing things while half asleep, and the water was probably one of the guys playing a joke on me after seeing me get spooked in the car. We weren't the sort of friends who played pranks, but nothing else made sense. The next morning, I spoke to my ex-wife, her brother, and our friend. None of them would admit to turning the faucets on. I told them the whole story, laughing it off as my tired mind playing tricks on me. They agreed that was probably it, even though none of us had a good explanation for the water. Despite all the joking and the many times we went driving after that, my brother-in-law never again chose to take us into those woods.
Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.